What's up, Internet? We are back with our boy Neku, which means more new loot! Jazz hands. Fun story, I was actually going to record this last week, but I had one more thing I wanted to get before I did that, and it was moved to supposedly be delivered yesterday, and I'm doing this today because it was apparently delivered to the wrong address, to some nebulous building in the middle of nowhere, I guess, so I've got to reorder it. Thanks, Amazon. Anyway, we are here with the loot for the first quarter, third half of 2021. I've had a lot of stuff I've been dealing with up to this point, so I'm sorry it's a little late. I'm sorry my release schedule's been all over the place. That's actually going to affect this video as well, but we'll get to that when we get to that. Anyway, before we get into games, I do have two things that aren't games, so I guess I'll show them off. So back in February, my birthday happened, and I had turned 3 decades old. Oh my god, I'm old. I genuinely have no idea how I got this old. Honestly, I didn't think I'd live this long. But I saw something, and I kind of bought it for myself as a birthday present. We have an SD Gundam. I've never seen this thing before. That's actually why I want this. Also, I apologize for the harsh shadow here. Part of the reason why I haven't built this yet, even though it's like months later, is that, and I think I've said this a few times, I'm actually moving rooms right now. I'm supposed to be moving all my stuff into this room, and unfortunately 80% of it is currently filled with wood and building supplies that aren't mine to move, and whoever owns them isn't moving them, so that's not great. I can't move all my stuff here. My whole life's a chaotic mess right now, and I kind of live in a garbage pile. Hooray. What's also fun though is that this room also doesn't have electricity, which is kind of hurting my release schedule a little bit. Like all the lights and everything, these are being powered by a extension cord coming from a different room on the other side of the building. So yeah, my life is fun right now. But either way, I have never heard of this suit. It says it's a Titans color, which makes me think it was a Titans test team thing. So that's neat, but I haven't built this yet. I've got no room to because my workbench is not in here, nor will it be for a while. God, I really hate that freaking shadow. Hold on, I'm gonna see if I can change that a little bit. Can I fix this? See, the problem is that it's connected to a freaking extension cord that's coming from a different room, and it's literally about as far as we can actually stretch it, so I can't fix the lighting all that much. I might be able to tilt the lens a little bit. Is that better? I do professional work. Anyway, yeah, so I got a new Gundam. That's kind of a thing I've been working on, or want to work on. Don't know, haven't had a chance to build it. Haven't worked on any Gundams in about half a year, honestly. I was working on a few last summer, and I broke them while I was building them. Like, just random happenstance, my cat destroyed one. Just random stuff just kept happening. Helped make my depression a lot worse, which was fun. But another thing I got for my birthday was a magazine. We have Retro Gamer Annual. I got this for nostalgia more than anything because this magazine actually has a little bit of history with the channel. See, when I first started this channel about 7.5 or so years ago, I was going through my second tour of college. I was taking up journalism, honestly just to make this channel better. I'm hoping that some of that's come through at least. But one of our earliest assignments for that was to get a magazine and just take it to class and study the layouts and stuff. In fact, I actually dug it up while I was moving some of my stuff, and this is in fact the exact copy I've got. This one, as you can see from there, was $16.50, as that is horribly out of focus. This one, however, was $35. And it was kind of a waste, honestly. I got this out of nostalgia more than anything because it was kind of a neat little historical thing for this channel. But it's a $35 magazine, and I don't think gaming magazines should cost more than maybe $15, and that seems pretty exorbitant. But there's nothing in here that I particularly learned. I mean, they're remaking Alex Kidd in Miracle World. I hate Alex Kidd in Miracle World, so that's not great. But anyway, that was something kind of neat. I hadn't seen a game magazine in a while. I figured, why not, for my birthday. I was in a bookstore anyway for something else. I'll bring that up as we go. But next we have actual games. The first one we have goes back to my Game of the Year list last year. because I mentioned when I brought up Trails of Cold Steel that I didn't have a lot of history with Nihon Falcom, and they're a pretty storied company. They basically invented my favorite genre, the action RPG, and the only other game of theirs I played was Ys 7, and I loved that game, but it was stolen. Really got to get another copy of Ys 7. I see it on Steam all the time, but it's never on sale at a price I like. But I mentioned in my Game of the Year list that I should really try and track down a copy of Fazanadu. I typically pronounce it Faxanadu. I know a lot of people do. It's actually Fazanadu because it's a portmanteau of Famicom and Xanadu, because it's a Famicom version of Xanadu, really. It's a pretty interesting game. It's sort of kind of like Zelda 2 if you made Zelda 2 a little bit more RPG-y. It does have some weird design choices, however. One of the first things you have to do is, go talk to a guy in town to get some money to get started with your quest so you can buy some starting weapons. And to get there, you have to go through like 3 rooms of enemies. So you've got to like go through 3 rooms of danger without any way of defending yourself, which is really bizarre. There's also a shop really early on that sells like end game stuff, and I guess you're supposed to get to the end and like backtrack there. It's just got some weird design choices, but I think it's a really cool game. And I'm pretty excited to keep trying to climb this tree thing and fight bosses and stuff. I just gotta find the time with it. Although I have been playing it a little bit every night before bed. Although not on this. I'll show you what I'm playing it on later. Next we have something that the moment I show it to you, you're gonna think something, and I know exactly what you're gonna think. You're gonna think, that sounds awesome. I'm not gonna remotely judge this guy for having it. And that game is Schoolgirl Zombie Hunters. I have actually not played this game, but I wanted a dumb, cheap, sort of like budget title, and I heard this was sort of like the EDF games. And I love the EDF games. Haven't had a chance to really play this yet, but one day I'm gonna be bored, I'm gonna have a few moments on my hands. That will be this game's time to shine. But other than that, it's zombie hunting with schoolgirls. I did see a little bit of gameplay of it. It looked kind of like just dumb fun, and that's kind of what I wanted. Unfortunately, I kind of had my eye on this on PSN, and I had watched it for a while, and it didn't seem to ever go on sale. So I saw it on eBay for like $30 or something like that. It's like, all right, that's cheaper than buying it on PSN. I get it. The day after it comes to my house, it's like $10 on PSN. Ain't that life, though. Okay, the next thing I got is part of Mario's big 30th anniversary we can no longer celebrate because Nintendo decided to basically release everything focusing on FOMO, the fear of missing out. I wasn't actually going to get anything with this, but I had an opportunity to get something, so I did. We have the Mario color screen Game & Watch, although it's currently by my bed hooked up to a power cable because it's serving as a clock. Although I will say it's like the brightest clock ever, even though there is a lighting setting on it. It is unbelievably bright, but I also have a sensitivity to light and sound, so maybe this is just a me problem. Anyway, this is like a $100 product, or at least it was when it was first selling on Amazon. Now it might have gone up in price for all I know, but it's a Game & Watch styled after the original basic Game & Watch. You get the Game & Watch game Ball that's modified with Mario. You get Super Mario Bros. And Super Mario Bros. The Lost Level, as well as a couple of fun little bonus things. You get like a little ad for it to show you how to draw Mario, which is kind of neat if you know the secrets. And there's tons of like little hidden things in this game, which I really, really like. That shows me that there was like a lot of effort put into this and someone really cared about what they were doing, but there's something about this I just absolutely hate, and it's how cheap the thing feels. Like, it feels like someone put a lot of effort here with all the bonus stuff, but the main content you get is just so freaking lacking. I'm gonna play with the focus a little bit, because you just get Mario, Mario 2, and like that ball game on the Game & Watch, which is just more or less a call out to it being styled like the original Game & Watch. But the thing is, first of all, Mario 2, also known as Yumi Kojo Doki Doki Panic, was also a Mario game that was on here, although people like to point out how it wasn't. It was actually a prototype of a Mario game, so I still count it. There was also Mario 3, not on here. I'm not saying they had to like put like the entire ROM set on here for like the NES or something, but there was more Mario games you could have crammed on here. And, failing that, they could have put the original Mario Bros. Or, hey, here's an idea. any of the Mario Game & Watch games, because there was quite a few of them, including a Game & Watch version of the original Mario Bros. And Super Mario Bros. In fact, there was 2 versions of that. So, yeah, it's not great. Also, it's about the size of a standard Game & Watch, so it's not very big. The D-pad's a little bit rough around the edges. And I think the biggest thing that bugs me is the reason why I bought this was it's also a clock. Hence, Game & Watch. It serves as a timepiece. It doesn't come with a stand though, which is weird. Like, you can keep it plugged into a wall and it'll stay as like a permanent clock, which is what I've got, but it has no way of actually standing up. So unless you build your own stand like I did, it's just gonna lay around until you turn it on or whatever. It's just awkward if you intend to use it as a proper timepiece. Like, the whole thing seems, I don't know, not very well thought out. But to be fair, I needed a timepiece in my room, and I managed to get an extension cord hooked up to it so it actually works. And, well, I figured even if I use this, it'll probably go up in value, and the fact is that this was one of those sort of Amazon warehouse, we scraped the box, which I think the closest thing that I could find is they've got like this big ugly label on the back, which who cares. And that took a device that cost about $100 and made it cost $5. So I figured, why not? Worst case scenario, I've got a clock for a while, and it's kind of a neat little thing to celebrate Mario's 30th anniversary. So, you know, there's that. Okay. Next we have a big box sent to the show by Jetwolf 68K. I've actually got a whole unboxing video for this, so you can look to that to see the in-depth of this. But we've got a bunch of games I'm currently trying to review and have reviewed, starting with Ride Gear Guy Brave. This is a sort of budget beat-em-up with a mech. It's pretty good. I've made a review on this already. It's decent for a budget title, but it has some weird design choices. The last chunk of the game is entirely circling the world like 3 times, and the RPG mechanics, they're not great. But it is a pretty approachable import, and it's pretty cheap. It's not bad. I wouldn't pay more than maybe like $15, and that's if I was being really generous on it, though. Next we have its sequel, Ride Gear Guy Brave 2. The original was a weird 2D beat-em-up. This one is a rail shooter with like 3D sort of virtual on sort of boss battles. It's actually a damn good game. It's a little bit more expensive than Ride Gear Guy Brave the first, but it's infinitely better. Got a review on this one as well, but I think this game is very, very cool and totally worth it if you're into that sort of thing. Although it does seem to be a little bit rarer than the original Ride Gear Guy Brave. Next we have possibly the most exciting thing in this thing, and a game I'm reviewing right now. We have Sega Saturn's Bulk Slash. The Sega Saturn import market has always been fairly cheap. As of now, it's actually increasing in value a fair bit, but you know, relatively speaking, it's always been fairly cheap. There's always been a few titles that have always been really, really expensive though. Stuff like Hyper Duel, Traverse Deppy, I think Willy Wombat's going up in price. There was a Tempo game that's really expensive, and Bulk Slash. Bulk Slash has, I don't think, ever really dipped below $100, and I kind of see why. It is an absolute blast to play. I am very excited to review this. It's not a very long game, though. My first playthrough through it took about 45 minutes, and I died and had to restart the first level, and I spent like 10 minutes on the title screen, so it's not very long. But it's a 3D third-person mech shooter, which allows you to turn your mech into a ship. There's also this neat little system where you can run around and find civilians, and they'll become like navigators for you. Each of these ladies is one of your navigators. And there's kind of light dating sim elements where every time you beat the game, their relationship with you builds up and you get a different ending with them. It's not overly complex, but it's a neat way to build up a little bit of replayability. And it's just in general a very cool game. It's got 7 missions, and every mission feels fundamentally different. There's a mission designed entirely for like fighter combat in space. There's one that's entirely in corridors, encouraging you to run around as a mech. This game feels very cool. This might be the best mech game on the Saturn, and that's coming from a guy who owns literally every Gundam game on the system. I really, really quite like Bulk Slash, and I'm very excited to review it. Alright, next we have Gear Fighter Dendo. I'm actually not super familiar with this game. I haven't actually played it yet. I'm in the process of tinkering with my PS2 to actually get it to work because my PS2 is being a little weird. But from what I can tell, this is a 2D fighter that I think had some like roots in Super Sentai, which is pretty neat. Again, don't know a lot about this, although Jetwolf did say that he wanted to review this himself and do some stuff, but he just didn't have time, so he wanted me to do it. I'm thinking that I'll probably be doing this 1 or 2 reviews down the line. Again, I've got a big box and I got a couple other donations to go through as well, but this one I'm pretty excited for. And he has included a list of special abilities and attacks and stuff, so, you know, I'm not going to be completely left out in the cold. Next we have one of my most wanted Super Nintendo games. This is Metal Warriors. This is basically LucasArts' attempt at making an assault suit game, except you can hop out of the robot and get a bunch of different robots, which is very, very cool. Not really much else to say about it right off, because I haven't played it yet. Again, I'm trying to go through this stuff in order, but I have been wanting to play this game for a very, very long time. So this is a very cool game. I'm very excited to play it, and I can't wait to actually get a chance to give it a go. Next we have Super Bonk 2, or rather Super Genjin 2. This is a sequel to Super Bonk, although we never got it in English. Very excited to give this one a shot because I do like Bonk, even though I don't have the most experience with it. All of my Bonk experience comes from the Game Boy compilation, which was 3 games plus a bonus game that is unavailable elsewhere. Very good compilation, and I've heard this is kind of the best Bonk game there is. It's the pinnacle of bonking technology. So, pretty excited about that, honestly. So, I like Bonk, and Jetwolf, he's got some good taste. He sent me some really good stuff. Next we have, I can't remember the full name of this, Dion. This is actually Imperium, which was a shooter on the Super Nintendo that, for me, was mostly just memorable for the fact that the versions were different. Like, the North American version changed, like, the background sprites for some reason. I said this when I first unboxed this, but, like, the North American first level, you're, like, flying over, like, just this muddy hole in the ground. And the Japanese one, you're flying over, like, this brightly lit cityscape. It looks totally night and day, infinitely better. But, very, very cool, and I'm pretty excited to give this a shot, even though it is sort of like a diet Musha. I mean, anything I can compare to Musha is awesome, because that's like the best shmup of all time. Oh, man, I gotta play some Musha. Musha is awesome, is the short version of the story. Alright, next we have Pocky and Rocky. This is a Super Nintendo game I have wanted to play for a very, very long time. In fact, I had a whole sort of video idea for a series I want to make that this was one I wanted to start with. That probably will never happen, but I am very excited to actually have this. This is a top-down shooter I've wanted to play for a very long time. It's actually part of a fairly long series known as Kiki Kai Kai that, well, we got 3 games in, and I'm pretty sure there was something like 10 or so in Japan, so we missed out on a few of them. You play as a shrine maiden and a tanuki, or some girl with a stick, and some kind of goblin that is legally distinct from the other kinds of goblins because English translation was weird, despite the fact we already had Mario 3, which told us exactly what a tanuki was. Figure that one out. Either way, it's a very difficult game, but it's very cool that I own this. Very, very excited to give this one a shot. Can't wait. So that's pretty fun. Alright, next we have Game Boy Advance Shining Soul. And Shining Soul is in the Shining series, as I play with this a little bit. When I first unboxed this, I thought this was the remake to Shining Force, because the original Shining Force was pretty much my intro to anime. Well, that and Gundam Wing, I got to experience both basically at the same time. But this is a completely different game, exclusive to the Game Boy Advance. Don't know a lot about it, although it is sort of emblematic about something that kind of frustrates me about the series. As someone who got into the series through Shining Force, it's kind of frustrating to see so many games in the Shining series exist still today, and yet no new Shining Force games since the Saturn. And we didn't even get the full Saturn game. It's a bit frustrating, but I am pretty excited to play another Shining game because, you know, Shining Force is awesome, as are other Shining games. Alright, next we have a multi-cart, the NES Classics cart. Now, I do believe I mentioned when I was talking about Fazanadu that I was playing it every night, but not that cartridge, because I was playing on this one on my Game Boy Advance, or my DS rather. I've been playing pretty much exclusively Fazanadu and this fantastic little game that's actually my most wanted NES game, but we never got it in North America, called Euphoria. And if you've never heard of Euphoria, it's not surprising, seeing as our first introduction to it was on the Wii Virtual Console. It was a non-linear platformer, kind of like Metroid, but if you made Metroid a bright, colorful fever dream. It's a very nonsensical, bright, colorful game, and just to talk about how weird it is, the first 2 minutes of it have you walking pretty much from a straight line into a solid wall where a rope will descend so you can get onto it, only for you to scroll the screen up and learn that that rope is actually a string of spit coming from a platform above you. It's a weird series. I love it though. The sad thing is it's a pretty long storied series that started with a platformer, and yet it's the only platformer in the series, because after that they made a foot racing game, sort of like Smash Bros. Sort of style fighting game, and a shit ton of puzzle games, but no other platformers. I really want to get more of those games though, but Euphoria is amazing. I've been playing the rest of this cartridge, it's pretty fun. Thinking about doing it for pirate gaming, don't know yet. I'm sort of struggling to find a proper upscaler to do some pirate gaming stuff, but we'll talk about that in a sec. We have Retro Game Challenge 2, or more accurately, Game Center CX No Chosen 2. This is the sequel to Retro Game Challenge, one of the best DS games, although I think this one's a lot better, and it's based off one of my favorite shows to ever come out of Japan, Game Center CX. Now, if you're not familiar with that, first of all, what is wrong with you? Second of all, it's an amazing show where this Japanese comedian Arno Shinya tries to play through retro games, but he's really, really bad. But he's always trying to beat them, so it's always very, very enduring to watch. And this game, he basically turns into a very evil demon and sends you back in time to beat game challenges with his younger self. It's a neat game. I'd say this game is better than the original because it basically contains the entirety of the original in this as just unlockable bonuses, which is very, very cool. Unfortunately, this is a fan-translated copy, and this is really the only way I can recommend you play it if you don't have an understanding of Japanese, because these are basically minigame collections, except that the minigames in this are basically big enough to be their own separate games. But this particular game has not one but two games that are stylized like old Famicom detective adventures. So you gotta really understand the Japanese language. And unfortunately, even if you know it in English, it's a little nonsensical. Like, the first case, one thing you have to do is you have to tell a joke at a door like 5 times in a row with no real indication that anything's going on. It's very, very obtuse. But that said, it's a great game, and this is probably top 5 best DS games right here. Maybe top 3, depending on what they ask me on, because, you know, I do loves me my Elite Beat Agents and my The World Ends With You, as you can tell by our boy Neku here. But Game Center CX2, very, very good game. We also have this weird little peripheral thing. Unfortunately, I can't make use of this because I don't have a GBA SP. If anyone has one they want to get rid of, hook me up because I really want one. But we have this, and what this is, from what I can tell, is you slot a GBA SP in here, and then on the sides you can slot in different Game Boy carts, and then it's just a switcher. But the neat thing is it actually makes the profile of the GBA SP significantly bigger, because of course it would have to fit in here, and this is significantly bigger. It also comes with like a grip on the back to actually make it really nice for bigger hands. So it's a really cool little peripheral, and I'm surprised that I didn't know about this before Jetwolf had sent this my way. I'm a little bitter I can't use it yet, but you know, that's what happens. Okay, our next thing unfortunately has some stuff I can't really show off too much in terms of videos just yet, because I'm trying to get like extra stuff so I can actually record it properly, but I've been investing in some N64 stuff. First of all, I got a new controller. This bad boy. This is I believe it's called the Brawler 64 controller. It's kind of stylized like an Xbox One controller. It fits in the hands really nice. The control stick is like a GameCube stick, maybe even a little bigger, which is nice. Although, one of my complaints, there's no ridges on this stick, so it's a little bit slippery in your hand. The only other problem I have with this controller is the placement of the D-pad down here makes it basically unusable if you're playing Tetrisphere or Mischief Makers, because those games were controlled basically entirely with the D-pad. But I will say, this is better than any officially released N64 controller because it was made for 2 hands and not for an octopus. And that control stick alone has made it a worthwhile purchase. Seriously, this is a damn good controller. If you're looking for a new N64 controller, grab one of these, because it's very, very cool. And with that, I've got a multi-cart. the Super 64 multi-cart. This is weird because it's like half multi-cart, half flash cart, sort of. That's how it's marketed, at least. But in reality, it's actually pretty much all flash cart. It's got like a little mini SD card slot there, as well as an NTSC and PAL switcher that I don't actually know what that does, because you can access PAL stuff on here anyway without that, but it doesn't display. So it might display if you mess with it. I haven't been yet. Like I said, I'm trying to find a way to get my N64 to work properly. I did a test video on this and it worked kinda, but like I've understood with this, the N64 just doesn't upscale properly on modern TVs, and it just looked awful. I've been trying to play through Paper Mario. That was one of the big reasons I wanted to get this, and it just, there's artifacting all over the place. It just looks garbage. So I'm trying to invest in a good upscaler right now. I've bought 3 at this point and none of them have actually worked. They were all broken out of the box. One of which included a card where the person was telling me to review this product on Amazon and he'll pay me if I give him a good review, which is like a million different red flags with the FTC, not to mention just straight up illegal. So I talked to Amazon about that guy, but weird adventures in Amazon trying to get stuff. My product doesn't show up on time, gets delivered to the wrong house, and someone else tries to bribe me to give them a good review. Life's interesting when you buy stuff on Amazon, I guess. But I bought this because not only did I really want to play Paper Mario, because I did, but it's an N64 multi-cart, and those don't really exist. I've seen one other N64 multi-cart, and it was a multi-cart that contained the first 3 Mario Party games. But this has all of those on it. Plus, again, you can just add your own stuff to it. I very much want to make a pirate gaming series on this cartridge alone. This is ideally what I want to do next, but like I said, I need to get the proper upscaler, and I'm still trying to find the right thing. Okay, so what's next? Oh, okay, this is what we're gonna do. Okay, so a little while ago, Sony may have announced that, you know, they were shutting down the PS3 store. And because of this, here's a couple of games I may have, panic bought. What was that? I didn't panic buy anything. You panic bought things. The whole damn system panic bought things. No, but I saw that, you know, prices were going up, and there were a few PS3 games I still wanted to get. Like even nowadays, even with these ones, I think there's still like 15 PS3 games I really want to get. But here's a few I really wanted to get. Starting with Aquapazza, Aqua Plus Dream Match. Now, as you can tell by the 0 rating, this is the Japanese copy. Like I said, they were going up in price, and this one was the definitive proof of that. I had bought a North American copy. I bought it, it was about 60 bucks, which was more than I wanted to pay for it, but I bought it and paid for it. So payment was made, the seller did receive it, and the next day I found that my payment had been returned, my order canceled, and the seller had relisted for $100 more. And that was more than a little clownish, because once payment is made, you know, that's a legally binding contract right there. So way to go, eBay seller. But for his clownish actions, I got this game, the Japanese version, for less than half what I was going to buy his English copy with. And I used the difference to buy more games. So, you know, I win in the end, but I did want it in English version. If you've never heard of this game, well, first of all, it's an anime fighter, so it's fairly niche. But when it released, something overshadowed it a little bit. See, this game came out, I believe, the day after this little obscure thing called the PS4. So, you know, I was too busy playing Knack to enjoy Aquapazza. I'm bitter about that. Actually, I made the wrong choice. I should have gotten Aquapazza instead of Knack, because Knack was the biggest piece of garbage ever. But, you know, I got this now, and it's anime fighting games, and anime fighting games are always fun. Haven't had much of a chance to play it yet, but it seems to have a fairly simplified system, which is good, because my motor skills have never been terribly good. I'm actually learning a lot recently about what that's about. Apparently, like, I've actually maybe had some developmental stuff when I was a kid that sort of caused some bad motor functions, which is why I'm not so good at fighting games. But, you know, an overly simplified scheme is something that will hopefully make it easier for me to play, because I've never been good at combos in games or anything, so I prefer a simplified control scheme if I can get it. Quite famously, the rookie mode in BlazBlue, where you could hold down the buttons to do special abilities, was awesome for that. I love that game because of that. So with the money I saved on Aquapazza, I went out and got an actual fairly rare game, Under Defeat HD Deluxe, and this is the 2-disc version that comes with a soundtrack, the art book. It comes with an exclusive ship as well. This used to be available digitally. It is no longer available, and as you can tell by the Peggy thing, this is a European copy. In fact, I ordered this from England. This is sort of like a mix between a scrolling shooter and a twin stick shooter. Like the screen scrolls vertically, but you have to control both your ship with the left stick as well as the direction it shoots with the right. It takes some getting used to, for sure, but I think this is a very, very cool game, and it's going up in price a fair bit. I got this for like 30 bucks. I think I found a pretty cheap copy, and I got it complete, so I'm pretty happy with that. That's one I've definitely wanted. Continuing our raid from Europe, we have Arcana Heart 3 Love Max, because we needed more anime fighting games. Also, it has 5 exclamation marks, which means you know it means business. This one we got from Spain for about 10 bucks, and this was a fighting game. I'm not sure if it was the original version of this or this version, but one of these was not available in North America, and this was dirt cheap, and I've wanted it for a while, like Arcana Heart, so I thought or Arcana Heart like Aquapazza, so I decided to grab it. And I'm just noticing this now, but I don't know if this is a PAL thing, but it's got like this embossed line of PlayStation right there in silver. I don't know how well it's going to show up. It's just a little plastic strip to rip it off, but the fact that that's embossed in silver just comes across as just classy. I don't know why we didn't get this, but or why we didn't get this sort of wrapping paper with this very, very classy embossed silver PlayStation logo, but I'm kind of digging it. Alright, next we have a game that also has that, because I did order this once again from Europe, but it's a game I owned physically, but I owned digitally, but I wanted a physical copy. We have Short Piece Renko Sugehime's Longest Day, and I think this image is supposed to be a flower made up of random images. I always noticed that it looked a bit like a brain, like that's the brain stem right there, and then there's like the whole brainy bit there, but you know, that's sort of like the middle of the flower, and those are the petals maybe? I don't know, I always saw a brain, but I guess it maybe looks a bit like a flower. Anyway, like it says, it's got plus video, and that's why this is so expensive. If you've never heard of this, that's because you're like most people. No one has heard of this game. I know one person who knows of this game, and even they didn't really know about it. All they really knew is, like, that's that one game made by Suda51, and that's kinda right, but kinda wrong, but kinda right, but not really. I mean, this whole name isn't even the name of this game. Sort of. Basically, this is not, strictly speaking, a game. It's actually a collaborative effort between multiple art houses. You have Short Piece, which is actually 5 separate films that are all based around the loose theme of Japan, although even some of that's debatable. And then you've got Renko Sugehime's Longest Day, which is a 2D hacky-slashy platformy thing by Grasshopper Manufacturer. It's a fairly short indie game that lasts about an hour, but it's a very, very cool artsy thing, and it's just weird and obscure, and no one talks about it. Again, I've got a digital copy. I really wanted a physical one. Never got released in North America. This is one that I got from Germany, hence why it's in German. I do actually know someone who owns a German copy of this. I want to see if there's English options with it. Not that I have any real desire to open this, but, you know, I'm just curious more than anything. But this is a very cool thing, and I wanted a physical copy just so I had it, so it looked nice on my shelf, and this is definitely a reminder that I want to talk about this at some point, because it's just a game no one knows anything about. And because of that, I think it's important I talk about it at some point. But the thing is, it's very expensive as well. Like, a digital copy costs about 50 bucks because it included the movie. And the thing is, in its life on PSN, I think it got introduced in 2012, so like 7 years or so until Sony stopped putting out deals. I think it only went on sale twice, and it was like $5 off each time, so it was always just very, very expensive. That's another reason why no one has it. It was a very expensive indie game that no one really paid attention to. So yeah, that's sort of what that happened with. Unfortunately, if you've never heard of Short Piece, that's why. It's because no one has heard of Short Piece, and I'm moving this for no reason. There's a reason later on, trust me. Anyway, the next thing I want to show off It's a bit of a hike to get to this game introduction, but we have entered the audience participation portion of this event because there's something I want to know. I want to know metrics on this. I actually quizzed my Discord about this, and if you were a part of my Discord, hello, you know what this is about. But let's start. So this is not a game I want to introduce, but it's part of this little event I want to try and figure out the metrics on. This is Nier Automatopoeia. Raise your hand if you know this game. I'm gonna bet a lot of people do because it's kind of a smash hit and it deserves it because it's awesome. Kind of confused as to why, but we'll get to that. But this is a very popular game. If you know about Nier Automata, put your hand up. Now, everyone who put their hand up, how many of you people realized that this was a sequel? Because this is Nier. This is not what we're introducing, but again, we're taking the long path to this introduction. This was a game that didn't sell terribly well, but it was pretty good. There was actually two versions of this. This is Nier Gestalt. There was also Nier Replicant, which just got a re-release, so it's getting more and more traction and more well-known. Although I've also seen everyone call it a sequel, so I'm guessing they don't even realize it's a remake of a game that existed for 10 years. This was a neat game, though, because it was like a 3D hacky-slashy action RPG with bosses that played kind of like a bullet hell shmup. It's very cool. The version differences are pretty negligible. In the North American Gestalt version, you play as an old man who's about 50 years old. In the Japanese version, Replicant, that just got re-released, you play as like a 19-year-old guy, which makes the sort of implied romance with the 19-year-old girl sidekick a little less creepy. But either way, this series is known for some creepy stuff, because now we get to the next part of this. Of all you people that knew that Nier Automata existed and was a sequel to Nier, how many of you people realized that it was not only the sequel, but the fifth in a series? Yeah, now I'm gonna start blowing some people's minds, I think, because we have, and this is not the game I'm trying to introduce, but a game I already owned, Drakenguard. This was an amazing game. I've got gameplay of it. It's sort of like Dynasty Warriors, but you can decide to just, when you're bored, to hop on a dragon and nuke all the enemies you're already murdering. After Drakengard, there was Drakenguard 2. It didn't do so well. It's not as well received. It's an excellent game, though. I like it a lot. It's my intro to this series, actually. But the creator, Yoko Taro, did not work on this, so a lot of people tend to just write it off. And then, of course, after that came Nier. Nier's actually a sequel to the original Drakengard of the sort of final, sort of kind of jokey ending. And then between Nier and Nier Automata, we have our actual game I want to introduce, Drakenguard 3. Like I said, it was a bit of a hike to get to this point, but I genuinely want to know how many people know of Nier Automata that actually know of the other, 5 games in the series. Either way, this is another Drakengard game. It's a little bit technologically less impressive. It's been a while since I played this because I actually own this digitally as well, but it always wants to show the dragon on screen, your sidekicks and stuff, so the game kind of slows down a little bit. But, I think it's still a pretty good game. Unfortunately, there's a lot of DLC with this game, and it's not cheap. There's 6 chapters of DLC in this game, and each one is $10. And you can buy a set that makes one free, but still, it's a lot of money. I wanted to buy this physically, first of all, because I figured it's obscure and it's going to go up in price. The other Drakengard games are over $100 each, which is a shame because I want to recommend anyone go play them because they're excellent. But this one looked like it was going up in price and it was about $35. It's still sealed. Don't plan on taking it out of the package because, again, I've got digital. But I wanted to have the whole series physically on my shelf. So I'm not sure if I'm going to get the remake to the new Nier, but I definitely wanted the physical Drakenguard 3. Now, that would be the majority of everything I have, although I do have one more thing. So, here's a story about how this happened, as I show what I have, because I finally have a PS5, as that blocks out the sun because I'm in a very cramped room filled with wood and no power and no room. But I do have a PS5. And I got that on my birthday. I'd been trying to get a PS5 since launch just because I'm getting old and I just turned 30. I was having, I don't want to say a midlife crisis, but I was having a I don't know why I'm this old sort of moment. And I wanted to sort of recapture a little bit of my youth by getting a new console and getting really excited about something. The PS5 is not that exciting, but I do think it's pretty cool. Anyway, how I got a PS5 is kind of an interesting story because it was my birthday, I couldn't get a PS5, I'd been trying for a very long time, and I hopped onto Steam to add something to my Steam wishlist. Now, you gotta understand, I go onto Steam like maybe twice a year, so it doesn't happen too often. And I get a message from someone on my Steam friends list. Someone who hadn't logged on to Steam in about 3 years. And they were like, hey, I don't know if you remember me. I totally remembered them. And they said, well, I'm coming to town next week to get a book, because they live in the next town over and they couldn't find this book in their library. And I was like, well, you know, I'm not that far away from that bookstore. I could probably grab the book for you. And I did, and that's how I got that magazine. But they were like, hey, thanks, because I did a nice thing for them. And it turns out they had become a manager of a game shop. And I talked to them, I was like, hey, I don't know if this is like an abuse of power or anything, but could you let me know if you get a PS5 in stock? Like, I don't know how I'd afford it, I don't know how I'd get it here, but you know, I need sort of an in somehow. And they got back to me, they're like, hey, we actually have one in stock. If you want it, I will grab it to you right now, and we'll just exchange when I come to get the book. And we did. So that's fun. I've been playing a lot of PS5, a lot of PS4 games on PS5, it's alright. Because of the weird way they priced this, apparently you couldn't just buy a PS5. Apparently they judged the price point on this so poorly that you had to buy it in a bundle, either with a $200 headset or like an extra controller or a game. Now, I might be weird, but if I'm buying a new piece of equipment, I want a game on it. So, you know, that didn't bother me. So we got a copy of Demon's Souls. And Demon's Souls to me is a very, very special game. I have a terrible memory, as I'm sure all of you know, but Demon's Souls to me means the absolute world. In fact, it has one of my fondest memories in possibly the past 15 years in all of gaming. The original one anyway, because it was my first PS3 game. Actually, it wasn't. It was my second one, but my first PS3 game was so abortively bad, I want to forget it ever existed. It was White Knight Chronicles. Don't ever play that game. It was awful. But when I first played the original Demon's Souls, I was working this dead-end job at a 7-Eleven, and I worked afternoons to like evenings. So before I went to work, I went to a GameStop and I grabbed anything off the shelves. It would turn out to be the first Demon's Souls. I just saw like, hey, there's a knight on the cover. This looks kind of cool. Let's go. And I sat there through work just wanting to play it, just because it was the worst job ever, and I was treated like absolute garbage there. I've got so many horror stories from that job. But I got home at about 10 p.m. with my free Slurpee and like my almost expired snack cakes that they were going to throw out because, you know, free snackage, why not? And I popped in the original Demon's Souls. And I did not go to bed until probably 11 a.m. the next day. Like, I had played for basically 13 hours straight, just the original Demon's Souls, in the first area, mind you, before the first proper boss, Phalanx. Now, yes, that does mean I do suck, and I do recognize that, but in my defense, I definitely was not going to leave Old King Doran alive. I needed to kill him before I moved on, and I did, at level 1. But I had the most fond memories of just that one night of, like, the worst year of my life, the worst job I've ever had, just running around this rampart, just finally feeling like something was paying off for me. Like, yeah, this job is awful, everything's going wrong in my life, but man, this one moment is great. And this is a remake of that. That's great. I enjoyed it. In fact, before I got this, I was actually playing my PS3 version again, and I've almost got a platinum trophy in this. I think I'm missing 2 or 3 things, but I don't care about that. But I did get the Penetrator armor, which is this awesome boss armor in the original that you couldn't get, that they added into this game. You just have to find, like, freaking 26 secret things that you have to play through the game twice to get, and you have to play basically perfectly. And I did it, and I'm very proud of that, because I love this game so much. Demon's Souls, still good. It's a hyperbolic statement to say this, I know it is, but this is probably the nicest looking game I've ever played at this point. And I think it just looks really, really good on the PS5. I'm very impressed with that. Alright, next we have a PS4 game I've been playing a lot on the PS5, and I honestly don't know why. We have Cyberpunk 2077. Yeah, it's as bad as they say it is. My first time playing this, I was on the title screen. I tried to go into the options to turn on subtitles because I like playing with subtitles, and the options menu broke. Like, I couldn't interact with anything, I couldn't leave it. I actually had to hard reset my entire console just to get that. After that, the first 2 minutes of my game, I found a woman, like up to her chest in a couch T-posing. I have died more times than I can count to the physics messing up. Like, for whatever reason, the physics will just kill you more than anything in this game. This game is terrible for that. And if you can get past all of those bugs, which is admittedly pretty much impossible, you've got kind of a shitty knockoff Deus Ex in a bad open world with very little to do. I'm playing a lot of this game, but it's mostly just so that I get some sense that I made I made good use of the money I spent on this. And to be fair, I spent $5 on this. But still, I feel like I'm playing this just for the same reason I'd play something like Just Cause 2 and just collect collectibles. It's something I can turn my brain off and just sort of mindlessly play without really enjoying it. Although I'd rather just go play Just Cause 2 and, you know, play it for the Just Cause 2-iness of it. Anyway, we have the last thing here, and here's a story about how the entire world, all at once, collectively had a brain fart. So, I went to Best Buy with a bunch of gift cards, because when I was initially going to buy a PS5, I was going to use Christmas cards and birthday cards to, you know, pay it off a little bit. And I couldn't do that because I was buying it from someone I knew. So instead, I took those to Best Buy to pick up a new game for it. We have Spider-Man Miles Morales. And here's where things got a little weird, because I think this is just sort of an up-resed PS4 game, as I understand it. So instead of the $100 these PS5 games are apparently going to cost, this one costs $65. Now, I took this up to the main cashier, and the lady there, she's like, all right, that'll be $140. And I was just like, okay, even with tax, this won't cost that much. What are you on about? And she, in a very condescending tone, just said, well, this is the PS5 version. You probably thought you were going to get the PS4 version, but this is the PS5 version, so it costs more. And I just say, no, it doesn't. I've checked your ads, I've checked your shelf. It should be $65. And she's like, well, I don't believe you, so get a manager. So I got a manager, showed him. He's like, yup, that looks good. Took him back to the lady, and she rung me up for $65, took it home. And it wasn't until I was putting on all the DLC codes while this thing was installing, because what else are you going to do while a game installs, that I noticed it says includes Spider-Man Remastered, and it includes a download code for that. Because this is the Ultimate Launch Edition. Why does this say it's the Ultimate Launch Edition? Why do I have the big fancy chocolatey fudge coated version? Well, what happened was I took the regular version off the shelf and handed it to the cashier. She then took that to the secret lockup shelf of all the games so that people don't steal them, and she grabbed the super special version that costs an extra $100. And the only difference is the DLC that was already installing. So there wasn't really much reason for me to return it, or indeed no one would benefit from it, so I just kind of kept it. I'm surprised I didn't realize it at the time, though. But it's a sequel to Spider-Man. I actually have not played this yet. I'm still trying to play through Cyberpunk, through all the bugs and stuff, just to get my money's worth before I hop into this. But honestly, I don't like Miles Morales. That sounds bad, but I don't know a lot about comics, but I know whenever Miles Morales is involved, Peter Parker dies. And I worried about that the moment they introduced him in Spider-Man for the PS4. And the reason why that bugs me so much is that Yuri Lowenthal, for all the crap I like to dump on him for, you know, being in everything, he's the perfect Spider-Man. He's got that sort of quick-witted smartass thing, as well as that dork that everyone and their little sister could beat up on him sort of aspect into his voice. He's got the perfect, he portrays the best Peter Parker ever. Tobey Maguire could not play Spider-Man. He could play Peter Parker. Tom Holland, excellent Peter Parker. Not a great Spider-Man. Andrew Garfield, it's the other problem. Yuri Lowenthal is perfect for Spider-Man, and now we're introducing the character that instantly means Spider-Man is going to die. I was a little bitter about that. So I'm honestly a little worried jumping into this thinking, Pete's gonna die. I don't want Pete to die. We finally got a Peter Parker that's better than the one from the 90s cartoon. But I'm very excited about this because the original Spider-Man for the PS4 was very, very good, and I'm excited to play more of it. I'm just hoping they don't focus so much on challenges, because I actually got bored before I bought this, and I played through the DLC to this because I never had, and it was all these really crappy challenges, and I just hated them because you could get like the highest score ever, and it would be like weird physics or just the game not properly accounting for something, and therefore you don't get the highest score or something, even though you did everything perfect. I hate those challenges. Challenges can be challenging, but when like you do everything right and it should work out and the game just decides it doesn't, that's bullshit. So I'm hoping there's not as much of that in this game. But I also did just watch the Spider-Verse film, so I'm pretty excited about that. But that is my total loot for the start of 2021. Hopefully now with more panic buying for PS3 stuff. Seriously, I gotta get a copy of Splatterhouse and Majin and the Forsaken Kingdom, Blur, El Shaddai is a big one. Oh, and they're all so expensive nowadays. But I hope you enjoyed. I think the best thing we got so far, if it's not the PS5 and it's not our weird N64 multi-cart that really shows off how much I can't play N64 games on a modern TV, it's definitely Bulk Slash. Look forward to a review of that coming out pretty soon. Then Demon Souls, that game is quite amazing. I think that's probably one of the best things we got. But either way, I hope you enjoyed, and if you did, subscribe to the channel to see more. You know, check out my Twitch. I really do need to get back to streaming to there regularly, but you know, I'm in a room that doesn't have power, so it's a little spotty. I apologize. And if you really want to make my day, check out the show's PayPal or Patreon and support the show financially so that I can maybe pay for electricity in this room, because no one else seems to want to actually rewire this place. Maybe I'll be able to do stuff more consistently. Anyway, I apologize about that, but I hope you enjoyed. And I'd love to hear your thoughts on my loot, whatever loot you've got, and other cool stuff. What did you panic buy when they announced that the PS Store was coming down? I can tell you, I've got a copy of JoJo All-Star Battle coming. Mainly just to do something with my brother. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed. You know, once again, thanks to Jetwolf for his support, and future thanks to anyone else who wants to support me. Like, seriously, you wanna add to my loot pile? I wouldn't say no. Just saying. Do it. Seriously, I don't make a lot of money. Free loot is awesome though. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed. I hope you enjoy everything else I do, and I'll see you next time. Peace out, Internet.